What if the cottage episode isn't just about Shane and Ilya getting time alone together? What if it's really about what starts getting revealed when two people stop hiding for long enough to finally tell the truth? Because the cottage episode isn't just romantic, it's a study in revelation, tiny clues, emotional tells, quiet confessions. And if you pay attention, it's also a lesson in how truth unfolds in real life. Not all at once, but in pieces. That's part of what makes Shane and Ilya so compelling here. It's not just the chemistry. It's not even just the tenderness. It's that piece by piece, you can feel something shifting. This is no longer just sex, no longer just rivalry, no longer just stolen moments. It's becoming attachment. It's becoming honesty. It's becoming real. Hello and welcome back to the Good Life Lab with Dr. Dave. This is a channel where queer stories meets the science and psychology of the good life. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave. I'm a therapist, college professor, and positive psychology researcher turned content creator. And I'm in the midst of the series called From Heated Rivalry to Real Loving Relationships. I'm trying to bring us from the fantasy and the love of heated rivalry to reality, and maybe even revealing something about ourselves through the series. I'm actually doing a mini series within this larger series that I'm calling Cottage Clues Revealed. And I've turned it into a bit of a game, so it adds another layer of fun and enjoyment, hopefully, to this series. You can think of it as a game within a game, sort of like the movie Inception, a puzzle within a puzzle. So if you're new here, I'm doing this month-long Compass Quest contest, I'm calling it. I'm providing clues within the episodes and on my Substack and in my website. As you collect them, there'll be a question that forms out of the clues that you collect. I'll share more about the contest at the end of this episode with a clue and more instructions about what to do with that. But for now, that's kind of the basic idea of the Compass Quest contest. So briefly, the Compass is an acronym, and each letter stands for something significant that is based on research and my own life experience in coaching people and working as a therapist. And I've rooted it in science. And so the first letter, C, for example, stands for clues and coordinating points. And it's just the idea that if you pay attention to your life, things that are happening inside of you, as well as things that may be on the outside, patterns that you see, desires that you feel. If you pay attention to those nudges, those desires, those dreams, you'll see patterns revealed that might be clues to the direction you need to take. So that's the idea of the clues and coordinating points. So stay tuned at the end of the episode for more details about the contest. So in light of this C for clues and coordinating points, I want to share with you some clues, some revelations that I found in the cottage episode. And I want you to kind of search along with me. So if you haven't seen the cottage episode, it's best if you take the time to look at that. I don't want to have any spoilers here, but also look at it again. I just watched it for the third or fourth time to help me with this episode. But there are lots of things revealed in that final cottage episode. So look for the clues and revelations, things that maybe you realized for the first time between the characters, maybe something the characters realized between each other, something that Shane and Ilya share, or that the parents find out for the first time. It's a pretty broad understanding of what's revealed in this episode that I'm going for. I found 33, there's probably more, but I'm just doing this kind of a fun exercise for me and for those who are longing for some more of heated rivalry while we await the second season and the final book of the series. The cottage episode is full of clues, tiny emotional tells, repeated patterns, quiet confessions. And when you start putting these little clues together, they lead to bigger reveals. So have some fun with it as you follow along. All right, reveal number 33. I'm doing this in reverse order. 33 reveals from the clues that we find in all the episodes. I call it Scott's speech. Fear is powerful, but love reveals and heals. Before we even get to the cottage, Scott Hunter reveals kind of the frame for this whole episode, which is revelation, truth, being yourself. In his speech, he talks about being himself, about facing his fears, about finding love. And he hints at something that lands hard. Fear is powerful, but love reveals and even heals. That's not just a nice line. That's the emotional thesis of the cottage episode. Because fear is powerful. Fear keeps people hidden. Fear keeps relationships vague. But love begins to change the balance for Scott. Not because fear disappears, but because something else starts mattering more to him. And that's our first revelation, what Scott reveals in his speech and sets up the whole episode, that love is beginning to outweigh fear. All right, reveal number 32. Shane wants to relax with Ilya as much as, or perhaps even more, than sex. This one really matters. A lot of the heated rivalry conversation revolves around sex. And fair enough, it's there. And it's great. We love it. But one of the early signs in the episode, when things are becoming more than casual sex, is when Shane says he wants to relax with Ilya, to spend time with him, to rest, to just be with him. That's intimate in a completely different way. Wanting sex is one thing. Wanting to exhale with someone, to let your guard down, to stop performing, to rest in their presence, that's a clue that your body is starting to trust them. And I think that's why the Cottage episode matters so much. It's not just erotic space. It's rest space, retreat space, truth-telling space. Okay, reveal number 31. Ilya is excited but also terrified about the idea of 2 weeks together with Shane. In this scene of them driving to the cottage together, Shane tells him he's looking forward to having 2 weeks together alone, and Ilya says, yes, me too, but also I'm terrified, right? And so that's a revelation to me that Ilya is sharing his emotions finally, and one of them is fear of what could happen in 2 weeks together. And that's an important clue, because when something really matters to you, it often carries both longing and fear. You want it. You can feel yourself wanting it. And that's exactly why it brings fear and why it's scary to you. 2 weeks together means there's no hiding in fragments anymore. No quick escape. No keeping it compartmentalized. That kind of time, 2 weeks alone together, forces honesty and intimacy. And for anyone who has ever stood on the edge of a real relationship or a real truth, or a real shift in identity, that combination is familiar. This feels oh so right, but it scares the crap out of me because I really want it. It really matters to me. It's not a warning sign for Ilya, his fear, his trepidation. It's a clue. Reveal number 30. Ilya is goofy and somewhat avoidant, but he's very tender. And one of my favorite things about the Cottage episode is it continues to reveal who Ilya really is. He's not just intense, not just guarded, not just sexy. He's goofy. He's playful. He's tender. We see this a little bit revealed, I think, throughout the 5 episodes, but more so in this episode, where he just wants something simple. He wants to hold Shane's hand as they're driving to the cottage together. That tenderness, you start to see that in the hospital episode a little bit more, where he kind of caresses Shane's cheek. But this is even more so in this episode. You see that emerging and blossoming. And this softness is one of the earliest clues that rivalry is becoming real relationship, because tenderness reveals intimacy. It reveals investment, that you care. It tells us that it's not just about attraction. It's about affection, delight, care, presence. And honestly, I think this is why this episode has hit so hard with fans. We are really starving, and I am still starving to see men portrayed in media, especially masculine, athletic, guarded men, be tender without apology. Okay, reveal number 29. Neither Shane nor Ilya have been with anybody else in almost 2 months. That's not nothing. That's not just not hooking up with others. That's a clue. Neither of them formally named exclusivity, that they're not going to hook up with other people. And there may not be a label yet, but the behavior is already telling the truth. They are orienting themselves towards each other. And that's sometimes how life works for us. Our actions reveal what matters to us before our language catches up. We say it's casual. We say, I'm just thinking about it. We say it's not a big deal. But then we keep returning to the same person, to the same dream, to the same desire, to the same ache. Repetition in our lives is a clue. Patterns are clues, and the cottage is full of them. Okay, the final reveal, number 28 in this episode, this mini-series that I'm doing about Cottage Clues Revealed, is called Shane Wants Honesty About Feelings. And this may be the biggest early reveal of all. It's when they get to the cottage, you know the scene, and they start to make out, and then Shane pauses for a second and says that he wants to be honest. He has an idea. He wants to be honest with each other for the next 2 weeks. It really frames the episode, and it really changes everything that we see happen. Because now this isn't just about spending time together. It's not just about sex. It's not just about chemistry. It's about emotional truth. And once emotional truth enters the room, the whole thing becomes more dangerous and more real. And that's why the cottage feels sacred. It's not just a getaway. It's a container for honesty, a place where, for a little while at least, they agree to stop pretending. And that's where real attachment begins, when you stop pretending. All right, that's the end of my first, 6 scenes and reveals from this episode. And I want to end here with a question for you to ponder, reflect on, to bring it from rivalry to your reality and maybe a little bit of a revelation in your life to apply in some way. And so I have this question for you. If you were honest with yourself over the next couple of weeks, like Shane was suggesting to Ilya, if you stopped hiding, pretending, or even lying to yourself, what might the next chapter of your life look like? So maybe the answer has to do with someone you love in your life. Maybe it's a dream you keep pushing aside. Maybe it's a future that keeps tapping you on your shoulder. Maybe it's a longing, a calling, a fear, a truth that you haven't let yourself fully name yet. You don't need to figure it all out today. You don't need to announce anything before you're ready. But you can begin by noticing, just paying attention. That's really what the C in Compass is all about. paying attention to the messages in everyday events, not forcing certainty, not pressing yourself into action at this point, just paying attention. Because the things that keep surfacing in your life, the feelings, desires, patterns, and recurring thoughts, may be trying to guide you toward what matters most to you. And honestly, that's why this episode hits me so deeply, because for a long time, I did the opposite of paying attention to my desires. I can remember, it's been decades of denial, of hiding, of trying to change who I was at the core of my identity, my orientation. So I ignored the clues, I ignored the nudges, those things that drew me to men. I tried to deny that for really decades, literally decades. So I know what it's like to try to suppress, to ignore, to deny those things that are most important to me. And when I finally started to listen, it was scary. When I finally started to follow the clues, those desires, and just let myself lean into who I was, that became so freeing. It became complicated for a while along the way because I was facing and dealing with things I hadn't dealt with for a long time. And when you bring those things to the surface, they can be scary, like Ilya was with Shane, being intimate with somebody or being honest about your dreams and desires. Those are scary things. But ultimately, if you pay attention to those clues, those desires, those dreams, they can lead you into a new, exciting chapter of your life. So when I talk about clues and coordinating points, I'm not talking about some abstract concept here. I'm talking about what I wish I had paid attention to. So let me bring this back again around to you. If you were honest with yourself over the next couple of weeks, for example, like Shane and Ilya were trying to do in the Cottage episode, if you just gave yourself kind of a pause and you were honest with yourself about things in your life, what might the next chapter of your life look like? You don't have to solve it today. You don't have to do anything necessarily different or press yourself. Just begin to notice, begin to pay attention. The little things that keep showing up in your life may be trying to orient you to what really matters most in your life. So pay attention, notice. And if you're following along in this Compass Quest contest, and the next clue is actually notice. So write that down as part of this mini series of clues. So first clue in this mini-series is notice. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode in this mini-series where I will go through clues number 27 to 21 from the Cottage episode. All right, have a great rest of your day.